Hello and welcome to another edition of Issues with JIDE. Here we talk about actions and inactions of those who shape our national and political landscape and how these impact us positively or otherwise. I'm Ibrahim Shita. Today on the show, Rivers Women's Stage bring back Fubara protest as administrator consolidates accused of power grab. In the course of the program, we take your questions, but first, subscribe to our YouTube channel and drop your questions in the comment section. It's important to mention that we can only read comments with human names and the ones based on subject matter. I have joining me via Zoom, the maestro himself, Babajide Falade Tutoju. Good to see you this evening, Bikil.
Good evening, Ibrahim. It's a pleasure to do this with you today, all the way from the northeast of our country.
Yeah, I thought as much. I know you're not in town. Good to have you join us from the northeast. Right, but we'll just appeal that you stay safe.
Yeah.
Right. So a crowd of women, on Friday flooded the Aba Road area of Port Harcourt, demanding the reinstatement of the suspended governor of Rivers State, Simlai Fubara, and his deputy, Ngozi Odu. They described themselves as mothers and wives and appealed directly to President Bola Tinubu to lift the suspension on the governor and the deputy and reinstate all democratic institutions in the state. What's your reading of this latest development in politics of things in Rivers State?
I think that the women are generally frustrated. As far as they are concerned, this is a clear usurpation of power. This is a clear military rule disguised as emergency, as a state of emergency. You know that during military rule, the constitution gets suspended, the democratic institutions are suspended, and the military rulers rule by fiat. So as far as those women are concerned, they are seeing something similar to that, and they want a restoration of democratic structures. They want those who have been suspended to be brought back. And they want to be brought back to office. They do not believe in this idea of a state of emergency because, let's face it, the politicians have found a way to run a government that benefits a good number of people. Through those democratic structures, the perks of office percolate to the people. Yes, you can say that it is their own people, their own friends that get to benefit, but a lot of people benefit at the local government level. Money is shared from time to time. A good chunk of the money that should actually be spent on delivering the dividends of democracy to our people actually gets funneled to political hangers on and the rest. Where you, as the administrator of the state, decides to sack all political appointees, it means that they are not going to get a salary. They are not, the perks of office will not come their way, and as a result of that, they won't be able to give some of the handouts that they normally give to their supporters, to their hangers on. They are not in position to give such a thing at this time. In fact, many of them have traveled out of the state because they know that pressure will come in a harsh economic environment that we find ourselves. Pressure will come, people will need money, people will harass them for money, but they've lost their positions. So where do people expect that the money uh, uh, come from. One reason these women came together and organized this protest. I've heard them say, oh, this has nothing to do with Fubara. But if it has nothing to do with Fubara, why did you tag your agitation, your protest, bring back our Fubara now? So clearly, this is about Fubara. You can't tell us that it's not about Fubara when your placards were screaming, calling for Fubara to be brought back to office. So some of the steps that the administrator has taken has shown clearly to these women and to many other people who benefit tremendously from political patronage, from handouts coming from politicians in River State, that those decisions have shown clearly to them that the next few months will be really difficult, will be really dire for them because such monies will not come their way. And as far as they are concerned, if those structures are returned, yes, um, they are going to benefit, they are going to be happier because for now, all those political appointees have been fired. The, the House of Assembly, they were led by Martin Amewule, which is protege, is no longer functioning. The governor has been sent packing for now. The um, the administrator has even gone ahead to do the unheard of by replacing the uh, to the government making they are making their position clear. They do not want this state of emergency to continue. They want the restoration of uh,
Hi, BK, can you hear me? BK, are you there? Hello, BK. Okay, so we'll try our best possible to reconnect with Babajide Kola. Well, we are talking about the challenges in River State, especially since the president had declared a state of emergency in River State, where we have um, a protest known by Bring Back Fubara protest by the River State women who are saying that the president should return to democratic rule. And then, by the women in River State, they said that I made different accusations of a power grab by the state solar administrations. So we're looking at, you know, challenges, arguments for and against the president's declaration, and then some of the things that had happened and the legal implication. Because if you can recall, on March the 18th, 2025, President Bola Tinubu declared a state of emergency in River State by, citing a prolonged political crisis between Governor Similai Fubara and his predecessor, who is now the FCT minister, Nyesom Wike, of the Federal Capital Territory, alongside incidents of pipeline vandalism. And the suspended Governor Fubara, his deputy Ngozi Odo, and the State House of Assembly were suspended for 6 months, with Vice Admiral Ibokete Ibaz, retired, appointed as sole administrator. And then on April 2025, we had some women in Port Harcourt staging a protest demanding suspended Governor Fubara's statements, carrying placards with messages like "Bring Back Fubara," "Save Our Democracy," which most definitely reflects frustration over the emergency rule and then perceived democratic erosion. Let's see whether BK is back. Okay, I'm afraid we do not have PKO. Yeah, in the meantime, I would advise that we begin to send our questions, I mean, not maybe questions, our thoughts, our comments, so that we can take them as soon as BKO returns, to the league. He's in the Northeast, so we expect that the network may not be as favorable as it is as expected because of the distance, because of the location, because of the connectivity challenges that might arise, from his location there.
But
Uh, right, BK, are you back?
yes.
Yes, we lost you momentarily. Would you carry on from where you left off?
So I said the protest of those women is understandable. They prefer a democratic arrangement with all the structures in place to the one-man show that is going on in River State now with uh, the administrator running his thing, having suspended the democratic structures, even the welfare of the hangers on to politicians, the welfare of career politicians close to the corridors of power is in jeopardy as we speak. So, as far as they are concerned, the the democratic structures should be returned, and Governor Fubara should be allowed to return to his position as governor of the state. But you and I know it takes much more than that. At this point, I will agree with the former governor of Bayelsa State, um, Dixon, Seriake Dixon, who said that the president at this point needs to find a way to bring together the contending parties. That is Ison Wike and Governor Siminalayi Fubara, so that a solution can be found to the problem. Because time is going, in no time, it will be 6 months, and some of those outstanding issues could still remain. So, just as the House of Reps recommended, the emergency rule can actually come to an end before 6 months if the peace moves um, yield dividends, if both men who suffer from the size of their egos are able to come together, put the state first, and agree to allow peace to reign. I've always championed this, but the two men are full of ego and they are listening to people from outside the state, greedy people, feeding off them. And it is what those people tell them to do that they continue to do. I imagine individuals who will leave their own states in the southeast to come and um, put more fire, put more um, gasoline in the fire of rancor in River State. What have they gained now that there's a state of an emergency in place? They've gained absolutely nothing. And Fubara has said he's the biggest loser because if he had handled this matter much better, if he had not listened to people who are pushing him to, for example, not present the budget to the expanded House of Assembly, we would not have been in this situation because he agreed, he actually fulfilled um, some of the conditions for peace, some of the resolutions that were reached in Abuja. But the important matter of presenting his budget to the Martin Ameule led House, he refused to comply with that. And they went on and on saying that those guys had lost their seats, this and that. We told them that they lack the power to take any lawmaker's seat, that it is the judiciary that can declare whether those seats have been lost or not. But they didn't listen because some people continue to to tell them no, they've lost their seats, and the problem continued to fester. Even when the Supreme Court gave its judgment, there was still a reluctance to comply with the directives of the Supreme Court. There was a reluctance. Some of the people were supposed to have to be rescreened. They went to court. And if you are not screened with by a properly constituted House of Assembly, you are holding your position illegally. And the Supreme Court had affirmed that, okay, the Martin Amewule led House was the properly constituted House of Assembly. So why wouldn't they just go and offer themselves for fresh screening so that peace can reign? Well, I know now that people have their regrets. They may not talk about those regrets in public, but they have their regrets. I also agree with Senator Seriake Dixon that the administrator should stop taking steps that will foreclose the possibility of peace. Many people believe now that the administrator is taking extreme actions that he cannot back by the provisions of our law. For example, many people were shocked that the administrator decided to reconstitute the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission. What was that designed to achieve? That decision caught many people off guard. One expecting that it would go to that length. He has also gone ahead to prepare a fresh budget. Now, if he comes up with a fresh budget, who is going to approve the budget? The law states clearly how a budget of a state can be approved and should be approved. Without a state assembly in place, who will approve IBAS's budget? It means that whatever he comes out with, he will just simply begin to spend money. So I really don't understand why. And then constituting boards of the state and boards and commissions of the state. I think that some of those steps are a bit hasty and should have been left for the de facto governor of the state to take, rather than a man who is only there for a few months taking those steps. There are those who are actually arguing that the administrator does not look like somebody who wants to spend just 6 months. Perhaps in his heart, he's convinced that this emergency rule can be extended, which will give him 1 whole year or more. So the matter of whether Fubara comes back or not should be on the lips of genuine peacemakers. I believe that at this stage, a political solution is still possible. The governor must put on his thinking cap, reach out to the other side, and let's see what comes out of that, because he cannot stay out of the vortex of power for too long. He is the democratically elected governor of the state. He deserves to run the state. That is what the voters asked for. The voters didn't ask for a retired military officer to come and run the state like a sole administrator. They want their governor to run the state. But mistakes have been made. This is a time for them to actually come together. I've heard somebody suggested that Fubara should beg Wike. It may be difficult, if not possible, for that to happen. But I still believe that the president has a role to play in this. The president, as the father of all, should be able to call both men and say, look, I took this decision because both of you were becoming too pig-headed, too stubborn, and too full of ego to allow peace to reign. Now, this is what I want. I don't want this crisis to extend beyond the 6 months of emergency rule that I have imposed. So, and if both men know what they are doing, they will agree to sit with the president and find lasting peace. This is
That's right.
what I believe they need to do at this time. Both of them have their faults. Wike has his faults. Fubara has his faults. But it's time to use the interregnum, the period of this emergency rule to look for a way to find peace. So
that's right.
Many people are also saying the NBA is not doing enough. The NBA has always been the bulwark against constitutional violations in our country. But people are saying that the NBA's silence and the weak reaction to the imposition of emergency rule does not dignify the association in any way. Taking the decision to not hold your conference in Rivers is not really what people expect. They expect the NBA to stand up a lot more and demand for restoration of constitutional democracy in Rivers State. I believe that the period of 6 months shouldn't be exhausted before this matter is put to bed.
That's right, because right. If you look at the Rivers State Administrator, Ibokete, he came under scathing criticisms on Wednesday following the sacking of the 23 local government caretakers and the head of the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission. And then these caretakers were replaced with administrators in local government areas, while the RZEC chairman, who is known as Justice Adolfo Zenebeli, retired, was replaced by Dr. Michael Ode. And Ode is meant to work with 6 members, 4 of whom are professors. So the question here is that this is coming in less than 24 hours at the time after a federal high court sitting in Port Harcourt ordered Mr. Ibas to appear before it to justify why the court should not grant a motion seeking to stop him from appointing administrators for the 23 local government areas. What's your reaction to this? Very good.
You see, the mere fact of having an administrator on the state makes a lot of us to remember military rule. And as I said before, during the military rule, they set aside the constitution. They ran our country based on decrees, and they did whatever caught their fancy. Ibas did not waste time to appoint administrators in the local councils. He has explained why he needed those administrators. But people felt that he should have used the public servants whom the governor had directed to take control of those councils. Yes, the elected local government chairmen have been sent packing by the Supreme Court, and the governor implemented that decision of the Supreme Court by quickly directing them to hand over to senior civil servants their councils. But Ibas appears to be like somebody who wants to put his own people who had little or nothing to do with the suspended administration in the state in charge of those councils, in charge of the state commissions, in charge of the boards in the state. So he's not running the state like somebody in a hurry. is running the state like somebody who has come to stay, who wants to put his own people in charge of things. And this is where I believe that Governor Fubara and co should be worried. And if they are truly worried, they know what to do. They have to find a way to solve this problem. The House of Reps, in agreeing to state of emergency, yes, affirmed that the the administrator will be under his control. But I doubt if the National Assembly or the House of Reps mandated the administrator to take some of the far-reaching decisions that he has taken, like appointing administrators all by himself, like preparing a new budget, you know, like sacking the River State Independent Electoral Commission, like sacking um, the political office holders, the aides of the governor and, and the rest of them, all political office holders. He has fired them. And where he has fired people, he has also brought in his own people. I don't think all of those decisions, he got the permission, he got the mandate of the House of Reps to take them. So it is clear that he wants to run the state on his own terms and um, based on his own whims. So this is clear. He is a man who has seen an opportunity and is grabbing the opportunity with both hands. So we don't know what next is going to do, but we've seen this past few weeks, this past weeks, that he is prepared to take far-reaching decisions, some of them that will be really annoying to politicians in River State and beyond. It underlines the need for a political solution so that the tenure or the time um, when Ibas will be in the office can be cut short. He has no reason to stay in office um, longer than 6 months, for example. But that is a possibility if the needful is not done. And the needful, I've talked about the needful earlier on. Ibas sees himself as somebody who could be there for the long haul. And politicians must realize that he's prepared to take whatever steps that he deems necessary. And we've also seen that even court orders is not obeying some court orders, especially court orders emanating from River State. Somehow the opinion has been formed that courts in River State will only do what pleases Governor Fubara, and that only the courts in Abuja, for example, should be taken seriously. So maybe this is how Ibas is thinking, but he sees himself as someone who has the president's mandate, to run the state. And the Supreme Court said that only local government chairmen elected should run the councils. The Supreme Court took that decision at that time because governors were already obsessed with enthroning caretaker chairmen in their states. And the Supreme Court said, no, only chairmen properly elected should have access to the funds of their councils. But we've seen now that Ibas has been provided with the funds to run the state, and I'm sure that he will also provide the administrators that he has appointed at the councils. In those councils, he will also provide them with funds to run the state, so to run their council. So the Supreme Court directive has not been obeyed in that instance.
That's right. Right. Let's take some comments. Banji Soto says, why are the women only interested in Fubara? What about the assembly members? I think they are just playing politics. Oluwasegun Akingbemi says, no matter the amount of sponsored protest, Fubara has lost the political grip of Rivers to his minister, to his master, Wiki. Fubara is paying the price of his betrayal. Next time, he would never try to destroy the ladder that took him up. Okay. Sonny Musa says, for the legacies of Mr. President, I think some people should move in to prevail on him to end the state of emergency. Nelson Adufe says, Fubara's skill of trying to play down the presidential power by allowing some jobless women to protest on his behalf will cause problems. BKO, those steps of the administrator are in the right direction. Akimbola Oluseyi says, good evening, BKO. The protest by the women in River State will only fuel the crisis. And if there is no amicable truce between Wike and Fubara, President Tinubu will extend the state of emergency beyond 6. Mitun Songa says, BKO, what do people like Mrs. Briggs and Mr. Ipele mean by the administrator engaging in undemocratic activities when they know he's coasting on presidential powers? Are they not distracting the man? Okay. So my question to you, vis-a-vis the last question in the comment that I took, is that if you look at River State as it stands now, there have been a cross section of people from across the nation disagreeing with the president's declaration of the emergency rule, demanding a reversion. Do you think these calls and protests will change a thing before the expiration of 6 months period? And is there enough stability in River State to reinstate democratic governance in the state?
You know, these protests are not going to achieve anything. But I don't see any meaningful gain that will come from this protest. Um, what I think can hasten the return to civil order, return to democratic order in that state is what I talked about earlier. The need for the combatants to come together so that the issues that precipitated the emergency rule can be addressed. If, as a governor, you hastily told council chairmen to vacate their offices in deference to the order of the Supreme Court, when the Supreme Court affirmed that they were not properly elected, the same Supreme Court told you to present your budget to a properly constituted House of Assembly, not a three-man House of Assembly. But the governor did not do that. Forget about the fact that he suddenly visited the house and he found the gates locked. That is not how budgets are presented. You send in a letter, your letter will be read on the floor. Somebody will move a motion that that letter be accepted, and the date that the budget will be presented be announced to everyone. There's a process to it. You've seen it in Lagos. I've seen it in Ekiti. But to suddenly take journalists with you, take a crowd with you, go to the assembly unannounced, and claim that they didn't want you to present it. But it was a very ridiculous thing. And in his heart, he knew that he was playing games. On the day the judgment was given, I would have been happy to hear Governor Fubara say, yes, the Supreme Court has spoken. It's the biggest court in our land. I am ready now to present this budget. Within so time, I will be happy. In his first statement, in reaction to the judgment, he should have said that because that was the key issue. A budget of 1.1 trillion, you present to just 3 individuals, and they cleared it with alacrity. It's ridiculous. And I've asked people who are gripped by emotion, who allow their emotions to determine what they say at any given time. I've asked them to tell me one country where it has happened, where the legislature was controlled by just 2 or 3 individuals. Ridiculous. So now we are faced with the possibility of IBAS even showing a reluctance to leave office. But if they come together, if they agree to make peace, IBAS stay will not be longer than necessary because I don't even want him to stay for 6 months. I agree with the House of Reps that a national peace committee can be set up that reaches out to the gladiators and extracts a strong commitment from them to agree to make peace. And then we'll see the timeline. We'll see steps being taken to arrive at that. Once we have that, then Fubara's return to office would not take too long. The PDP governors have gone to court, but I don't know. It's not in all cases that even the highest court in our land determines cases based on the position of the law. Sometimes national interest comes in. Sometimes the desire to set the record straight, the desire to teach a lesson influences their decision. As we saw when they wanted to teach Obasanjo a lesson that impunity does not pay. Rotimi Amechi never asked to be made governor. He asked the Supreme Court to declare that he was the lawful candidate of the PDP for Rivers State, but they went ahead and declared that he should be sworn into office immediately. But after that, the Supreme Court directed that that case should never be used as a precedent because it wasn't based on even what the applicant asked for. So they've gone to court, but let me not talk about possible judgment. But I'm just saying that sometimes the Supreme Court doesn't determine cases based on the position of the law. Look at even the matter of the Naira redesign. Ordinarily, the Supreme Court should have declined jurisdiction, but it decided to assume jurisdiction just to solve the problem between governors and the federal government at that time. Governors led by the little man from Kaduna State. So I'm confident that if they come together, this whole problem will be solved and the administrator will be on his way back to where he came from.
That's right. Banji Okesoto says, I'm of the view that the sole administrator is just exercising his power aimed at creating balance of political power among the gladiators in River State. Inke Ruwem, a son, says, JIDE, River State is at the state of emergency. All those constitution order is suspended. Sam says, Fubara is already seeing spirits. Fayoshe warned him, but Albino misled him. Albino, I don't understand what he's trying to refer to. Victor Patrick says, what I'm asking, and I have been asking from all of these people showing up on TV, blaming the president, is that if they were the president, what would they have done differently? Ella says, all appointments made by the sole administrator is aimed at restoration of democratic structures. And Victor Patrick says, what I am asking, okay, so he's just concerned about what people are doing, whether they would have, acted differently. That's what he's trying to find out. Now, Felix Akiode says, BKO, he waited for the true certified copy let's be honest, only Ashiwaju can sort it out. If you wanted going to the Supreme Court is for prosperity's sake. The reason I love listening, Loud Dell says, the reason I love listening to Babajide is he's always on point with his analysis. Fubara is learning his lessons, and I believe Wike is also taking note of his mistakes as well. I wish Rivers people, well, the comment didn't finish. But Wike, because of our time, we're already 40 minutes into the program, so we need to call it a wrap, Wike. That's our show for today's edition of Issues with JIDE. Special thanks to you, Babajide Kolade Tutoju, for those insightful analyses, as always.
Thank you, Brian. We wish that peace will return to Rivers, political peace will return to Rivers. We need that to happen. We need the people who see themselves as bigger than the state to put the state first and let democratic order return.
That's right. Thank you so much, Bikio. We wish you a safe return from the Northeast back to Lagos. And that's our show. A special thanks to you, our audience, for keeping our company on every edition. You can also see the program again anytime by subscribing to our YouTube channel, TVC News Nigeria. Click on the subscribe button to get the latest information. You can also follow us on our social media platforms at TVC News NG. I'm also at Ibrahim_Shita. On behalf of the rest of the team, I'm Ibrahim Shita. See you again next edition. Bye for now.